Welcome to Investors Insights. Our topic today is It's All in the Wording. We chose that topic today because words are important. Here at Five Plan Partners, you think all we do is look at the numbers? Well, we look at the words as well. And part of the words we're going to be looking at today with my distinguished colleagues, Trey Booth and Ty Miller, is the fact that the Fed has issued documents talking about whether or not they're going to be raising interest rates and how the market's going to interpret that. We're also going to be talking about the debt ceiling. And with that debt ceiling, there's going to be a lot of words exchanged between the House and the Senate and what emotion that might cause for you and your portfolio. So with that, Trey, I'd like to start off with you because you actually inspired us, I should say, on using this topic today about words versus numbers. So tell everybody how everybody's reading the comments made by the Fed.
Yeah, absolutely. Rarely is the Fed using the same sentence as inspiring, but we'll go with it.
Very true.
As expected, on Wednesday, the Fed announced its 10th rate hike in 13 months. So the numbers weren't what was surprising, but to Greg's point, it was the words they used. They took away they substituted the word determining for the word anticipating. So what does that mean? They were saying previously that they anticipated further tightenings would be necessary. And now they're saying they are determining whether or not further rate hikes will be necessary. So what does that mean? The market now is saying that means the Fed they raised and now they're done. They're pausing. And so what does that mean for returns? Well, if you look at history here on expectations, you can see on this chart, it shows the Fed funds rate going back to 2005. You can see that the Fed has raised rates, and then the blue line is where rates have been. And then the dots are where people are projecting rates to go. And so you can see that there's no longer expectations for higher rates. The green dots are what the Fed itself anticipates rates to be. The red and yellow dots are market indicators of where the market expects rates to be. It look like the Fed is going to have to cut rates. And so what does that mean historically for the market in terms of returns? Well, we've seen a lot of reports that when the Fed pauses or pivots, that's very positive. We've been talking about that. On average, returns after the last Fed rate hike and to the first rate cut, the market on average is higher by 5%. But average is a loaded word here. You can see on this chart, this dot plot shows the returns of the market after the last Fed rate hike and before the first rate hike. And one thing you can see here is that there is not a single data point that is anywhere close to where average is. Average is right there in the middle at 5%. But you'll see that going up to 2006, 2007, you had a 20% increase. And then in 81, 84, 74, and 80, you actually had the market falling. And so this is a situation where average is like you have one hand in the oven and the other hand in the freezer. And on average, you feel great. But average isn't what anyone's experiencing here. You're either doing great, the market's up, or the market's down. There is no in between on these data points. And so what's concerning to us is that our research indicates that the current environment is a lot more like the 74, 80, and 84 time period, where the Fed paused, but they were still dealing with inflation due to external factors. And so that's
explain that though, Trey. Let's talk about that. We did in our meeting is as somebody, especially 81 and 84, I was in the industry at that time. But part of that's where our enemies understand they can create a shock to our economy and cause inflation to go up, despite the fact the Fed was actually working towards correcting inflation. Fair statement?
That's right. The Fed really didn't have as much control over inflation at that point. So the market still fell because the Fed, even though the Fed may have felt inflation on the way down, the Fed didn't have fully control. So if you have an oil shock or a commodity-driven inflation bubble where you could have stagflation, where inflation is up here, but wages are down here, that's negative for the markets, even though the Fed is no longer trying to tighten to bring prices down.
Yeah. During that 74, you had the oil embargo, the shocks there. In 81, you still were dealing with the Iran hostage crisis, as well as Chrysler going bankrupt, and there were banks going under at that particular time.
That's right.
So, as well as others. So wording's very important. And I also need to say this. It's why we've stayed defensive here at Five Plan Partners as we analyze, going back to this data that you just said, we're looking at the numbers, we're watching the words, but we're staying more defensive at this point in time until some of this pans out.
That's right. Yeah, well put.
Yeah. So, and then Ty, when we were talking about words, you said, well, here's some words we're going to be listening to for a little while. Out of DC, there's going to be a lot of negotiations and words exchanged about the debt ceiling, and that ties into the emotions that can cause markets to be volatile. So talk about that.
Yeah, so we'll get a lot of words. I don't know how useful they'll be in the media, but you'll see a lot of them. So to your point, with the shocks, one of the events we have coming up is the debt ceiling. And so a couple of weeks ago, we referenced that, first dibs was kind of the House Republicans to try to pass something to get to the negotiating table. And it was kind of 50-50 if they were going to get anything through. And they did. They were able to pass something that passed by a narrow majority. But it started the negotiations. That was an important first step. So tomorrow, President Biden is meeting with some House and Senate members to further discuss this. No deal imminent, anything like that. It'll probably go on for a few weeks. But with the recent tax revenue numbers that we've gotten, this date of the debt ceiling, which originally at the beginning of the year was expected to be maybe like August, September kind of time frame, is being pushed up into June. Even Janet Yellen said the X date, beginning of June. So they have a couple weeks to, kind of banter on here on the media and things like that. But for the most part, they got to get moving. Now, with that being said, even if a debt ceiling isn't passed, isn't raised, by the time that X date hits, it's, not a panic button. We have enough cash flow to pay for interest payments on a lot of important things, but you could see the volatility tick up. We're at a very low volatility level right now. We do expect that to pick up as talks go on and as that date approaches. And, the important thing is, there's a very good chance that something gets passed maybe in the last week or maybe a week after, really around that time frame. But how is it going to be funded? So the Treasury General account right now is funding a little bit of the markets, taking some liquidity from their reserves and putting them in the markets. Well, that liquidity is going to have to be replenished when the debt ceiling raises. And so how are they going to do that? Well, typically they take from bank reserves, as you can see in this chart. Last time, that's what they did. Well, right now, banks aren't really on a good standing. So, you're taking from bank reserves. That's not going to be a great point. They're going to have to find some other methods to do this. So it's going to be very important to watch, and the words that they use to say how they're going to do this, when they're going to do this is going to be very important. That, that'll lead us into, what's next for the market.
Yeah, and it will cause emotion, and the media will play on that. It gives the politicians limelight and opportunities to stand and make comments, either complimenting each other or criticizing each other. We've been through this many a times. It's also another reason why we're staying more defensive right now at Five Plan Partners. And we're pleased with that. And we're going to continue keeping our clients updated as we see these words hit the news media and the screens. But we will also be watching the numbers to make sure they match up with the words. Not the first time we've debated debt ceilings, not the first time we've been here. We can navigate through this. So, folks, we hope this has been really beneficial to you. We hope we're answering your questions. We also appreciate those of you that continue to call us or email us and say, here's a topic I would love for you to discuss. Please keep doing that. Also, thank you to those that continue to forward our vlogs on a regular basis to family, friends, colleagues, neighbors. We appreciate that. And then also, we just want you to know that each and every day we're thinking here at Five Plan Partners. Just like I said, we're watching the words, we're watching the numbers, and it's in relation to your financial blueprint and also your portfolio, which go hand in hand. And we will keep you updated because every day we're striving for our clients to have a better, richer, fuller life. And we sincerely mean that. With that, we hope you have a great week. I'm excited to tell you that on May 10th, Peggy and I will celebrate our 37th wedding anniversary. Please keep her in your thoughts and prayers. So, as so many of you like, oh my word, she's put up with you that long. And we just hope you have a great week and that all of us have something to celebrate. Talk to you soon. Thanks.